All right, end game. Stats end game. Math 21 practice final. Okay, so the instructions, I don't know that they're clear on this, there are confidence interval questions. And your job on the confidence interval question is to give the statement of confidence with the pertinent information. We'll walk through some examples in a second, but a general form of this is we are blank percent confident that the true mean or proportion, it's going to be one of those two of paraphrase question here. Is between blank and blank, where that is our lower limit and that is our upper limit. And use units where appropriate. Like the mean is usually a mean number of something. Mean has units usually. For the proportion one, you can write it as the decimal, 0. Blah, 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 0.xyz, or if you do like xy.z%, use the percent sign. Some people like using the percent, some people don't. You will be given the information and lower limit and upper limit. You will not need a computer or calculator for anything on this thing as long as you know how to compare two numbers, p-value and alpha. I was trying to come up with a generic number. So like if it's 123, 0.123, you can put 0.123 or you can put 12.3%. Maybe I'll write that next to it. 0.123 or 12.3% example. That's for the proportion. The mean will be about something. There will be some sort of units that they're talking about, whether it's time related like minutes or hours, whether it's something like that. That is two of the questions. There are two CI questions. They are worth 6 points each. There are 8 hypothesis tests. These are worth, I want to say 11 points each. Let's see, 88 and 12, yeah, 11 points each. You need to A, tell me the name of the test. Is it a one proportion test? Is it a one means test? Is it a two proportion test? Is it two means test? Is it a paired test? Is it a goodness of fit? Chi-square, or an ANOVA. Those are the 8 different hypothesis tests we've done. Or you will have done by the time you do all your homework. B, now we're starting going into the test. Okay, you will be given the p-value and test data. You don't need to find that part. That's one of our normal, the 5 steps. One of the steps is finding those values. I'm going to do that for you. So you have 4 remaining steps to do. The 4 remaining steps to do are state H naught and HA. State them. Label the groups when needed for like the more than one group. H naught and HA doesn't make sense for some, like the 2 proportion thing. If you do P1 minus P2 is greater than 0, and I don't know which one is your P1 and which one's your P2, it's absolutely meaningless. So if you label them, even if you put a 1 next to the name of one and 2 next to the name of the other, that's sufficient for me. They gotta be marked. You should list alpha. You're gonna need it anyways. If it's not given, use 0.05. So that's like C. D, compare p-value and alpha. If it's less than, I recommend you write reject H naught, support HA. If it's greater than or equal to, write do not reject. Not reject H naught. There should be a do in there. Do not support HA. The compare the p-value to alpha is essential. If what you put there matches part E, the statement of conclusion, the stuff on the right is important. If these two match, this part over here is optional. I strongly recommend you write that, because if it doesn't match, I don't know where you got it wrong, and so I don't know what you didn't understand. When we state the conclusion, your statement of conclusion is always about, is there enough evidence to support the claim of AH? Not AH, HA. There is no H naught in this part. That's what you need on the test. If you, we did 12.1, 12.2, and 13.1 at 7 to 9 this morning. The video will be up tonight. I actually used the example problem in each one and showed you exactly, like I wrote out what exactly you're gonna get, kind of thing on that and what I expect. We're gonna do it again with the practice final in a second, but you'll see several examples of this. Those are the instructions. And I want to, like, this is like some pro tips. We never talk about supporting or not supporting H0. It's already been supported in the past. It's already been done. It's old news. We are trying to decide if the new claim is worth anything. Which is our HA. A lot of students forget that. I see a lot of support H0, do not support H0, and it's wrong. H0, it had its support. Now we're just trying to see if it's still any good. Or if there's so much evidence to reject it, it's too far away from what we got that it's just not reliable anymore. That's pro tip number 1. That's about all the hypothesis tests. Don't fuck that up. Pro tip number 2. Before doing any of them, of the actual tests, go through and identify every problem. It's part of your work for your hypothesis test. You need to tell me the name of the test. So, like, there are 2 CIs. There is a CI for mean, a CI for proportion. There's a 1 proportion sample test, which I usually just put 1P. There is a 1 mean test. I put 1 mu. And I listed these up above. I'm putting them again here. Then we had our 2 sample proportion test, which is a 2P. A 2 sample mean test, 2 mu. And then we have the paired means test. If you put pair, that's sufficient. I'll know what you're talking about. These are your chapter 10 topics. These are your chapter 11 topics. These are your chapter 9 topics. In chapter 12, we do goodness of fit. You can write that all out. If you put GOF, I'll get what you're trying to say. We also have the chi-square test for independence. If you put chi-square or chi-square like that, those are both reliable. And these 2 are both chapter 12. The chapter 13 topic, there's only 1, it's ANOVA. And that's what you should write, ANOVA. ANOVA is for 3 or more means. 3 or more means. Both of the ones in 12 are about proportions. This has a bunch of proportions, 3 or more proportions. The chi-square one is about proportions, but it's a table, and we are doing rows versus columns. So maybe at the top of the page next to your name, write down like the abbreviations of these. Do like CI, maybe CI mu and CIP, and then these. And then as you go through and label the prop, as you identify the problems before working them all out, write which number you picked next to your list. If you can go through the entire test, label all 10 problems, and they're all labeled something differently, there's a good chance you did it right. The ones that commonly get fucked up as a group are goodness of fit, paired, and chi-square. These three tend to get mixed up because they often have tables of information or charts of information. But if you go through and you've got two of them labeled chi-square or chi, you then got one of them wrong. Now, it's quite possible if you label them, you could have, and you have one of each, you could be wrong, and if you're wrong, you're gonna have two of them wrong, but you're gonna do that anyways. It's worth going through ahead of time, because like some of these ones, like the paired versus goodness of fit, you might get down to it and go, okay, I've got everything but problems 4, 5, and 8 identified. And I've got 3 names left, and you can start like really like, what's the difference of these? Start thinking about them. That way you can pick which one to go with. Once you've got the list done, you know which one's which, you don't need that list anymore. You go straight to it, start doing the problems, okay? That's just a pro tip. You don't have to do this shit. The students I tend to see do it tend to get like 100% usually. There's one of each. There is no duplicates. There is no 2 questions for confidence interval for me. Each hypothesis test, there is only one. So if you found it, you labeled it, it's not going to show up again. That's why I'm recommending writing the list and then writing which problem number you got it for. So when I go through the practice exam, I'm going to do this. Is there any questions about the instructions? We've been doing the hypothesis testing in class, and we talked about confidence intervals at the beginning of the week. This isn't stuff you haven't seen. I am going to end the instruction video, and then we'll do a video for like actually